appreciated. Let me tell you a little bit about these players that we're about to have here. Representing Root Seed, going to try and come back from an 0-2 deficit that his team is currently experiencing, is Bones. Bones is Mild Donald. He lives in Ontario, Canada, and is attending the University of Ontario Institute of Technology, studying networking and information technology security. He's a GM Protoss player, and for the most of his HOTS season, or he's been Protoss Grandmaster for the majority of the HOTS season at this point, and he was High Masters in Wings of Liberty, but was able to break into the Grandmaster tier in Heart of the Swarm. He originally was a part of the inaugural Clarity Academy back in April of 2012, and was actually a team captain, and then moved to the main Clarity team a while later, then moved to TtSEED in October, and is now the team captain for that. So he's been all over the place, definitely knows a lot of the players. These guys have relationships that go long before this particular show match. So his achievements, he's gotten 3rd and 4th place in the Breaking Out NA tournament run by Fear Dragon, and he won the first APM League by Golden. His playstyle he describes as being passive with solid playstyles, working on mixing in more aggressive play, and he well-refined one-size-fits-all builds with a lot of nuances and solutions to try and adapt to what's being thrown his way. He's got a strong late-game play, but he's just got to get there.
Thank you for that, and again, thank you for the players and teams that took the time to provide those. It does really help the viewers and us a lot in getting to know these players. Quick reminder, too, while we're waiting for this to get set up, one of the players did request a couple minutes to get ready. Go out to Twitter and follow at SC2CTL to get updates on the league and what will be happening. We will be doing more of these show matches. This has been extremely successful. The community has responded, and they have approved of what we're doing. So we will continue to do this. And also go out and follow at WingnetSC and at Gallegation. We are your casters. We are the regular casters for SC2CTL. You will see
the normal ones, the ones you see and all the weeks and when the season is running.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to Season 2, frankly. But you know, I've got another bio that I actually need to get through before we go into this game. This is going to be by Shew. His name is Alex, and he's an American Protoss player who spent most of 2013 playing StarCraft 2 full-time in the Clarity Gaming House, which is located in Hampton Bays, New York. He's left the house to go to school now, but he still plays the game very regularly. And when he was asked for a statement, he said that his name's Alexander Raymond. He quotes himself as the man, the myth, the legend. Despite his absence of his legendary blonde hair, he says he is still your king and dude meister general. He hails from the noble land of California, plays the autistic monkey race of Protoss, and enjoys such tasteful entertainment as Anchorman and Trailer Park Boys. He also likes to play sports, especially lacrosse and football, and he's earned an honorary Korean status for his proficient understanding of their language and his ability to cut perfect bulgogi meat. And he says, ladies, please, one at a time.
I don't even know what that is.
No amount of hubris is lost on Shew. Let's see if he can back it up.
So the chat has asked if you have blush on, Mr. Gallegation.
I do not, actually. I actually am just naturally very red in the face. So I don't understand why, but that's life. It was probably a bad chemical reaction when I was younger. You know, don't do drugs, kids. And that's that's what you got. So.
I swear, I when I was thinking about doing all these things back in the way back before we ever started doing this, I'm like, I need to have Gallegation here because he gets all the attention, the hair, the cheeks, you're beautiful.
My defining features. I should probably just put foundation on, and then I really would be wearing makeup, but it wouldn't look like I was wearing makeup.
Oh, new hashtag, that's hair toss. For you. Hair toss. Only if you played Protoss.
No, that's Shew that they're referring to.
Oh, well, I like that for you as well.
Well, too bad.
I'm checking to see if our players are ready. Both players say go, so we are good to go. Good luck, have fun to our players, and starting the game, as we are going to be going into Frost.
Frost it is, and this is a decent map in and of its own right, I like it.
I do like a lot of the maps. Troy likes to throw in them throw in the interesting ones. We'll get
The
to those
goofy
later,
ones.
maybe.
Yeah, those are interesting. Just like to shake it up a little bit. Things that you're used to seeing versus things that you're not used to seeing. It's good to kind of have a little bit of variety and kind of throws the players off a little bit because they're not used to playing on those maps.
Absolutely. Frost is a fairly large map too, so we will see what we see.
Sure.
But in the lower left-hand corner, our green Protoss, hailing from Root Seed, his name is Bones.
And representing Clarity Gaming, going to attempt to extend their victory to a 3-0. It is Clarity's Shew. So here we are once again with a wonderful PvP.
Ah, yes.
Back in Wingnut's home turf here.
Yes. Yeah, PvP, honestly, I used to love PvP in Wings. PvP was where it was at. I felt like I really could control the game and understood everything that was going on, but PvP is, man, there's just so much variance in it. It's really hard to keep track of.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially with the variety of viable builds that Protoss has right now, you can kind of do a whole lot of different things, and so you really have to be on your toes when you're going against your own race. It kind of makes Terrans and Zergs laugh because they're like, hey, Protoss is hard. But currently, anyway.
And I do see we have all kinds of people in chat donating continuously to the prize pool, so we do thank you for that.
That is really cool of you. We appreciate your generosity. And again, this whole event wouldn't be possible without you, so we appreciate you showing up and hanging out with us.
Both players are going to be doing gateways fairly close to their nexi. We will see what does come down. Looks like a gas coming down at just about the same time. Double gas from both players. So going to be fairly uniform here. I think the really trick up the sleeve, what comes out here, and we see a lot of people scouting for it so much lately, is the Proxy Stargate Oracle, because, man, if that catches you off guard, you just pretty much win the game off of it.
Yeah, and Shew is attempting to broadcast their Twitters out there, so go ahead and follow those guys. They obviously you will be able to see how cool of players they are. One of the things that I do like, getting back to the game though, about the early game of Protoss versus Protoss is when they open standard like this, they look so similar.
Yeah.
Like even if you look right now, their building placement is so similar, and it's a pretty neat little thing that you see recurring in this mirror match.
Well, it looks like Bones is going to be. Well, it looks like the first. I was going to say, it looks like Bones is going to be going for a Zealot while Shew is doing something different, but no, he decides to put out that Zealot as well, so we're going to continue along the mirror path. Warp Gate coming down from Shew as well as Bones, so this will be an interesting choice. Looks like the first deviation is going to be a Sentry from Shew.
And Bones rather, is running a little probe all around the map. He's running a 5K, maybe a marathon, trying to figure out where his opponent is, and he's going to get a good workout because it looks like he looks like he's going to the right way this time. So he's going to cut a quarter of his route off.
Yeah, that definitely was a. It's so hard in this map too. If you decide to scout and you do choose the 3 wrong bases, it's almost the 6-7 minute point by the time you get to find out where your opponent is.
Yep, and Bones did see Shew's probe heading across the map as well, so he had a decent idea of where it was going, but you could run into the same issue. Oh, that probe is not long for this world.
And he didn't really get to see a whole lot either. He did see the expansion, but all he saw was that pylon coming up the ramp as the Sentry and Mothership Core were there to take that down relatively quickly. The probe from Shew is doing its best to hunt down that of Bones, which, again, it's going to be one of those cases where it's going to be 4 of 4 options when he does find that.
And it looks like both players are going to be going the air route, which I can't say I blame them. It's very strong right now. And so we should see some interesting air battles, maybe some Phoenix. And, I always love the Oracle opening. It's a little... it's not quite going to... I don't think it's going to happen in this game just yet, but they might do one.
Yeah, it does. It does seem like the way to go these days is air toss, but we will see what these players can do, and there's a lot of different options you can do. It looks like a Oracle is being hallucinated for Bones here, so that is, this is something we didn't talk about, is the mind games of PvP. Definitely one of the things that you can do here is, usually a Phoenix is pretty typical to be hallucinated for scouting purposes, as Bones will see that it was, but Oracle maybe not the most typical unit, so if you do just poke in and show it and then run away, it'll be like giving that freak out here, but the Phoenix is going to spot it, and it is going to be able to find out that it is a hallucination. But both players know
one,
that they both have Stargates, so that's the
that's
thing.
right. Shew did actually pull all his probes very briefly from that main, though, when he saw that Oracle come in. And so, even if nothing else, it did get a little bit of delayed mining time. But as you said, both players are now going Phoenix, and so there will be lots of high flying attitude and some good old Top Gun action going on in here.
Yeah, Shew is a little bit ahead here in the economy-wise, as he did put down his expansion first. It felt like Bones, his expansion was a bit more reactionary, as players were fairly mirrored there for a while, and Bones was able to scout the expansion of Shew and say, oh, you know what, you're going for an expansion? I will too.
And, that's usually a good idea. Otherwise, you're going to be very far behind when it gets a few minutes later in the game. You want to make sure that you're keeping your expansions on the even keel with your opponents. So another hallucinated Phoenix is moving across the map now. Going to try and scout anything new.
And it is going to run into 3 actual Phoenix, now 4, as that is taken out. And doesn't really get in to see too much. He knows the Stargate was already there, but he doesn't know how much he's committing to air, as it is going to be more and more Phoenix for Bones, while it is going to be, it looks like, similar for Shew. So we're going to have an interesting battle here between Phoenix v. Phoenix. Hallucination does come in, does not get to see a whole lot, runs right into the army of Shew.
And it looks like both players are now putting down a second Stargate. Shew's is a little bit farther along than his opponent's, but that's only going to at most give you one more Phoenix, which can make or break the armies based on what positioning that you get.
Hunter in chat saying, "Such high stakes, many worries."
Yes. High fly attitude.
So as a Zerg player, we play on the ladder regularly together.
Yeah.
What do you think about, is it all or nothing air for Protoss these days? I mean, I know how I feel about it, but how do you feel about this?
Well, sure. What I've seen has mostly been air. Like, it's a very strong reaction, especially against Zerg. We've seen, especially going back to Season 1 of SC2CTL, one of our more favorite builds that we saw throughout was by a gentleman named Wannaking, and he had a very interesting heavy air style that was fairly goofy, but it was very effective against Zerg, and I don't think we saw him drop a single map against Zerg.
It looks like a probe of Bones here is spotting around, as it is fairly, I don't know if I'd say typical, but at least relatively not uncommon for a player to put a proxy expansion far and away, especially with the ability of the Mothership Core to warp to it to defense it, while Bones is checking those to make sure there's nothing like that going on. But a large number of Phoenix from Shew coming out to see what he can do against Bones, and this number of Phoenix can really empty out a probe line real quick.
It sure can, and he's scouting out to see if there's an expansion there. It looks like it's getting ready to be put down, but isn't quite there yet. He doesn't want to show his hand to go into scouting what he can see, and there's not a whole lot of units here, but in come the Phoenix.
Oh, but he did not come in far enough to see that fleet beacon going down. That would have been a key piece of information he would like to know, and it looks like it is going to be the Aeon Pulse Crystals. He's going to get the Phoenix range going down, but if he would have just gone in just the tiniest bit further, he would have seen that fleet beacon.
Well, based on the build, I can imagine that he can anticipate what's coming. His own is about finished in researching, as I say, as it's coming up on the Game Heart interface, and he's putting down a third base behind this a little bit faster than his opponent. Bones is trying to get the minerals, and there it goes down as I speak.
And one thing we definitely seen recently out of PvPs is very, very long macro games. We're in early Heart of the Swarm, late Wings. It used to be aggression, aggression, aggression. Kill your opponent as fast as absolutely humanly possible. To whereas now it's just kind of poke here and there and make sure you know what your opponent's doing and just stay one step ahead of them until you get that 200 army that's better than your opponent's 200 army.
That sounds like more the same out of Protoss.
I don't know. It seemed like there for a long time in Protoss, it was just out to kill your opponent as fast as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely varies between leagues, but and frame of reference point, but there definitely was a time there where people referred to the Protoss ball. You just kind of hunker down until you can get that 200 army, and then you move in with pretty much your entire tech tree in tow.
Big deviation coming here from Shew. He is putting down a Dark Shrine. This is going to come in handy for him to do that harassment as he is moving around with his mighty air army. And, if you just can sneak in a couple DTs, that can, regardless of how much damage it does, it can really pull your attention in so many different directions. And this is a huge, huge number of Phoenix from both players. We got 19 and 19 on both sides. And I mean, look at the looking at the units, it's actually almost hilarious because it's 61-ish probes for each player, 2 zealots, 20 Phoenix, 3 sentries, and 1 mothership core. So both players have literally exactly the same armies right now.
And you have to be careful because when you have exactly the same army, positioning is what it comes down to. You really have to get the edge up on your opponent that way because you don't have the edge up, unless you have upgrade advantage, but both these players are getting similar upgrades as well.
Yeah, and so the players, as we mentioned, have deviated. The Bones going for the Templar tech here, as I expect he's going to be going for possibly Storm, maybe into Archons. While the DT is going to be the choice for Bones. +2 attack coming down now for Bones. I'm sorry, Shew as well, while +1 is about to finish for Shew. So there is going to be that ground army component at some point. 2 Templar morphing into an Archon for Bones, 2 Phoenix hallucinated to go out and continue to see what's going on the battlefield.
It looks like Bones does have a pylon up in the north part of the map. Shew has scouted it and put down a pylon of his own. There is a zealot coming forward to try and take care of it. But at the same time, there's a little bit of aggression going down at the natural.
Yeah, it was just a single zealot walking in, I believe. But the pylon of Bones is not going to be able to survive here, as Shew has claimed this territory for pylons of his own. Shew continuing to spot around, see what his opponent's doing. But, you know, as we've said, both players going for very similar things. Robo now coming down for Bones as well. So gosh, you know, with this many Phoenix, I am curious to see what the players will be doing. Both going for Templar here, Dark Templar Archons on one side, High Templar Archons on the other. This is going to be quite the fight, as we are at 142, 148 food, so we're approaching that 200 supply here relatively quickly.
And as you were saying, this is where we're starting to see the deviation between these two builds, as Bones has many more Phoenix than his opponent, but also has the leg up on the Archon development.
And
which is going to be
Archons
so useful.
Cannot be lifted up as the Phoenix do engage here. Couple Archon shots taken by Bones there, and those do quite a lot of damage, and that's going to be really the important thing for Shew right now, is to get those Archons up, as the really only air army of Bones is those Phoenix. So if he can get the large number of Archons and control that, he can push in a little bit more powerfully.
That's exactly right, and he wants to delay as much time as he can to get that done. It looks like there are a few upgrades happening now for Shew, and he's looks like he's getting ready here to regroup and getting these units in the positioning that he wants to push forward. There is a single zealot going around for Bones, trying to figure out what's going on in his opponent's side of the map.
And he does see his opponent is expanding. Pylon's about to finish up, one zealot whacking away at them, as Bones is trying to get a read on his opponent's army position, as he's just kind of maintaining this tower position over here, mostly just trying to control space, it looks like.
But he does have this Zealot Strike Force that's trying to focus down this Nexus. There is enough there by Shew to take care of it, so that will not fall. But that's really the first, hint of sidelong aggression that we've seen quite yet. Bones does have his army split up here. The Archons are moving in one way. The Phoenix are trying to wait for the right position, and Bones' Phoenix are kind of just standing idle at the moment.
Yeah, the 2 Time Warps do go down, really negating that Zealot charge in, but there's a lot of Archons here spread about, so both players going to have a difficult time coming through this tight choke here as the Zealots do charge in, get a nice surround on those Archons. The Concave from Shew is looking really good, but the Phoenix now moving in.
And they're not doing anything, though. They're just standing there. The Archons are wrecking on the front line. He's trying to prevent his Phoenix from taking too many Archon shots, but he's just got to do what he can against the Phoenix that are in there. Archon versus Archon. It's looking very good for Shew at the moment.
Yeah, Shew with those Archons just able to push forward now as he broke that tight choke there. 3 Archons versus a lot of Archons is going to be a very strong play, and the Phoenix of Bones are still poking around, but can't really do anything against these Archons.
And he's trying to lift up anything that he possibly can, but those Archons are thinning their ranks very quickly. But Shew behind this is trying to tech into Tempest, and he is chrono boosting the heck out of 3 Stargates to do it.
Yeah, I don't think Tempest are going to have a really hard time dealing with this, because the economy of Bones is going to be ravaged here. He does have the 4th base on the right side, which is coming up, but really the only thing he has here to deal with this is Phoenix, and he can't really go around to put any pressure on Shew either, so Shew is just going to be able to do whatever he wants.
Bones does move in with a little bit of a strike force of Zealots trying to take down that base once again, but the Archons are not being idle. The Tempest have made their appearance. They're trying to target down what they can on those Archons, but the Archons aren't buying it. They're walking straight in there, and now the Tempest are having a bad day as the Archons are right underneath them, and that's the last place that you want Archons when you are a Tempest.
And now those Tempests are going to take up refuge in the middle of the Sim City of Bones here, which this choke points is not going to allow the Archons to get close to them, so the Tempests are going to get some really good shots on the shields of the Archons here, but the Archons doing massive damage. You're going to just go right for the nexus of the natural expansion of Bones, which is going to put a huge hit on his economy.
But those Archons are getting hit, and their numbers are thinning. There's only 4 remaining. The Zealots are moving forward to try and take him out a little bit, but he has lost 3 bases now.
3
as there was
bases.
a strike force at the same time.
The far right 4th base of Bones did go down as well to 2 Zealots and an Archon, it looks like. So now Bones is going to have to try and do something to get established here, while Shew is on 4 bases with quite the army. He does have 5 Tempests now, and as these Tempest numbers grow, the Archons will have a bit more of a difficult time dealing with it, as the positioning can be quite hard to deal with.
And this is an interesting choice by Shew, as he's getting more Stalkers. That's not usually a unit that you see coming out at this point in the late game. Usually those are something that you see more in the early game or in the mid game, but at this point they're not as strong as some of the other things, but against this army, it actually makes sense to have them.
Yeah, it absolutely does, because now that he is researching Blink as well, which we'll finish up here shortly, and the Archons, just like I said, aren't going to be great against these Tempests because they're slow and bulky and can't really move around all that well, and Tempests can get great positioning. But if you can blink a large number of Stalkers under some Tempests, you can do quite a bit of damage right away. But Bones is going to be moving in here to the base of Shew, and he's going to put up a fight to see what he can do, but there's a lot of Archons and a lot of Stalkers here.
Yeah, and this could go either way at this point. Shew is being careful to try and put the battle on his own terms, trying to get the Stalkers a bit in front of his Archons to tank some of that damage so that he can then blink them behind and trade spots in terms of being the tanks.
Blink now finishing, so he's going to move forward with the Archons to try and put up position. Nice blink behind the Tempest, but there's just a lot of Phoenix there lifting up half of the Stalkers, negating that damage, and the Stalkers just can't get in where they want to.
They really can't. They're getting pushed back by these ground forces, the Zealots, and now they're trying to move forward where they can. Those Tempests are still doing damage as Shew's Stalkers are forced to target other things, but there's the GG.
GG by Bones. And that initial blink in of those Stalkers didn't go so well, but when he was able to blink back, the Archons were still there in the front, and they really dealt with the large number of Zealots on the ground, and the Tempests still remaining there. Once the Archons got through all that, there was nothing stopping the Archons from attacking them, let alone the Stalkers blinking back up and just getting back that. But it would have been really hard for Bones to come back, but it was definitely a nice push there.
That's right, and one of the things that is true about Tempest is you can't exactly decide, oh, I don't want to do this battle anymore and get out of there. They're kind of locked into position, similar to try and moving boulders. So what do you think? Did you think that Bones reacted appropriately given his situation there in the end of that game?
Yeah, I mean, once you get to that late mid-game, early late game, when the players start to take their deviations, he was kind of committed. I honestly didn't really care for the fact that he went for Tempest so late. I think it would have been a little bit more powerful if maybe there would have been a few less Phoenix and gone for the Tempest a little bit earlier, especially since he had that the base advantage there for a bit. Because, man, you see so much when you get that critical mass of about 6 to 7 Tempests, plus the Archons, plus the charged Zealots. The Tempests are just doing free damage in the back, especially against those massive units.
Mm-hmm.
And, that base does have a lot of really strong push angles behind that 4th base there. There's a big gaping gap there that the Tempests can kind of just hang out behind, and even Blink Stalkers can't really get a good position on them.
Yep, and they were using that positioning quite effectively.
Yeah, so I definitely think that Shew pushed out at the right time with what he had. It was a very strong push, very good control, moving through that tight choke point, getting the advantage on those large number of Zealots that he had, and then just keeping that, basically taking his economy down, because at that point, Bones did want to go Tempest, but he just didn't have the money for it to really make a go of it.
That's right, so that does put Clarity Gaming up 3-0 against Root Seed. That makes the next game potentially match point.
Absolutely, so. And but don't count your cards yet. How many times have we seen Gallegation, a team be up 3-4-0 and come back and the other team win? We've seen it.
And win all the marbles, yep.
More than one time.
More than one time for sure, and that's what's exciting about this game. It's a lot of fun to watch. And we will have to see who's going to be up next on Root's roster to see if they can pull their team back into this match.
Yeah, neither of these teams are slouches for sure. And, if you've been sticking with us and watching all of these games so far, you will see that that was a 24-minute game that was pretty, the early stages were a lot of posturing, but it could have really gone either way, dealing a lot with positioning there. And, the score is 3-0, but if you were to give points based on performance, it would definitely not be 0 in the root seed column.
That's exactly right. So I think that we're going to be getting this next lobby created. In the meantime, I think we are going to be running an ad. So if you would be so kind as to stay with us as we take a short break.